So I think we're rolling. Everything
All right.
appears to be working. Welcome to my fireplace
Right.
area,
Yeah.
Jim.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry Michelle couldn't be here to help interview, but she's busy today being a guest teacher
Very
at
good.
Bozeman High School. I would like to start with this. I'm with Jim Holstein right now. He is a longtime Yellowstone tour guide. And right off the bat, is it true that you've skied every resort in Montana?
Everyone in Montana and Wyoming, and I'm missing 4 in Idaho now.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, you got to tell me
Right.
what's the best? What's your favorite?
They're all good.
Yeah.
I absolutely have a great time at every ski hill I go to. So, they're all different experiences.
There's not one that you would say you can't miss that one.
Right. Well, no, I wouldn't say that. Yeah. So they're all, any day of skiing is a good day.
Okay.
So,
how long did it take you to do this?
It's a few years.
You're getting a lot of miles on the car.
Right. Yeah.
Well, good for you. That's great. You're originally from Livingston.
Yeah.
How did you end up in Big Sky?
Well, Livingston's not too far. And as a kid growing up, a couple of the ski patrollers at Big Sky, Charlie and Winnie Pearson, used to bring us up with their kids, Chad and Matt. I think more to entertain their kids while they were skiing, while they were working at ski patrol.
You're a babysitter.
Well, I don't know. We were the same age, so I think it's just more to entertain each other. And,
okay.
Keep them out of their hair type of deal, or all of us out of their hair or something. I don't know.
But you started skiing in Big Sky. And
well, I started in Bridger, actually.
Okay.
Bridger Bowl, and, just came up with them on the weekends a lot.
But then at some point you decided Big Sky was a place that you wanted to end up.
Right. Well, that kind of goes back to the high school days. Our English teacher, my senior year in high school, kind of told us all, hey, the way most kids do this out of high school is they get out of high school, they go to college right away, they get married right away, have kids right away so they can do stuff when they're retired. And I don't know if he was pissed off at his wife at the time or something, but he said, if you're smart, you won't rush into college. You'll kind of, figure out what you want to do before you really rush into college. Don't get married, don't have kids, and go do everything while you're young in your 20s. Gosh. And so I took that advice. And when I hit 30, I discovered all my ski bum friends, how miserable they were when they got married and had kids in their 20s. I'm like, well, I'm going to do this till I'm 40 now, or 30.
Good for you.
30, 40, yeah.
So you sowed a lot of wild oats.
Yeah,
during
absolutely.
that time. You got a huge debt of gratitude you owe that teacher.
Right.
You wonder if he maybe missed out on some things, and that's why he was giving you that advice.
Yeah. I mean, but you think about it, you're not really, in your 20s, you're not really mature enough for kids. And
my God. I mean, no, that's the truth.
So it's and it's good to do those things when you're young too,
Tell me about being in Big Sky for, the changes, the growth that happened.
Right.
What are your impressions of that, of, then versus now and everything that's happened?
Well, it was a much different place back then. There's 6 lifts when I moved there, and 4 or 5 when I started skiing there. And the powder was limitless back then. I kind of miss that part. It's getting tracked out way too quick nowadays, even though it's 10 times bigger.
And that's just a factor of, do you think, the weather or the amount of people?
It's more people. Yeah, it's probably both too. But,
yeah.
In the bowl before snowboard, it's, going way back, the bowl would just kind of work its way. Everybody would make a line right next to each other. And it'd take a day and a half to work your way all the way to exit chute.
It's like you had a system.
Right, we did.
That's great.
Snowboards kind of screwed that up. Nothing against snowboarders at all.
No agenda whatsoever.
Right, but they do track it up a little quicker.
I heard your nickname is G1 Jim.
Yeah.
Is that because you're a big bingo buff?
No, not at all. It's a nickname from our old mountain manager, Scott Bowen. I used to work the gondolas on the lift crew, so you just kind of put those together.
Nice. How long were you a lifty?
From 87 until 91.
Okay. That's a good run.
Right.
And then when did you start spending more time in Yellowstone National Park?
Well, I actually started in the park. I was doing summers in the park and winters in Big Sky initially. So my first summer in the park was 87. And I did 88 as well, working for the Forest Service in Gardner, which started as campground maintenance, but ended up on fires, obviously, because everything caught on fire that year. And then from there, I kind of went summers and winters in Big Sky for a little bit.
Okay.
Then back to the park in 91. So.
And what keeps bringing you back to the park? What do you love about Yellowstone?
Well, it's I grew up there. It's a unique place. It's very different from every other national park. It's the first national park. It's got some of the most unique geology, and microbiology. I'm kind of a science nerd. I did go for my science degree to teach 8th grade science and never did quite finish.
I'm sure you get to teach some science in your job.
We do, yeah, at the job, and with people who want to learn,
right?
Which is kind of the big difference.
What a great way to learn.
Right.
Not exactly hands-on, but you're at least right up close to the.
But it's such a unique park, compared to every other park. It's got so many different things going on. It's probably the most diverse in the world. Every section of road has something different going on, and
I am certainly partial to it.
Right.
But tell me about what it was like. I mean, it sounds like it was 35-ish years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was it like back then? How have you seen it evolve?
Well, the roads were a lot worse back then.
Okay.
Some of them, the north side of the park, are still the same, but they were narrow stagecoach roads that were flattened out and paved.
Yeah,
kind of like the new North Entrance Road, actually.
Okay.
But with a lot more years of abuse. But
pretty rustic.
Pretty rustic. Yeah, the traffic we thought was bad back then, but the new roads have really improved that. Thank goodness, because the visitation has doubled or tripled since then.
Yeah,
and so just the infrastructure has improved greatly. I think is the big one. If we were on the roads back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
that we're on. If we had those today, we'd be in a lot of trouble right now, I think.
Yeah, so, I mean, you got Wi-Fi at Old Faithful now.
Right,
that's a step up.
Yeah, kind of when it works. But usually after the guys or ghosts, the cell phone signal's pretty much weak and non-existent because everybody's sending their selfies.
Is it how much of a challenge is that when you're in the park communicating with other guides, with people with the outside world? You just don't even try?
Well, when we started, there were no cell phones. There was no Wi-Fi. There was none of this. So we'd literally, when we get to Old Faithful, we'd have to run into the inn and find out what time the geyser prediction was and run back out to the group and, plan everything out. Now we can kind of figure that out ahead of time before we get there.
Now you check Old Faithful's Twitter.
Right,
and that's how you know.
Right.
But that is certainly an interesting perspective that you have. Talk about Yellowstone Tour Guides. What sets that apart from other outfits?
Well, most of the companies are new. Yellowstone Tour Guides started in 2001, and we're one of the 35 or 40 or so original companies before they opened up the permits in 2013 or 14, whenever they did. Since they've opened up the permits, there are over 300 more new companies.
Oh my God. I didn't realize there were that many.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Well, no wonder traffic's so bad.
Right. Well, I don't know if it's them so much. I think it's just a combination.
Sure.
There's a big increase in rental motorhomes since those days too. So.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But it's a lot of new guides, a lot of new companies. When the before the permits opened up, we were pretty much exclusively the only company in Big Sky. We were the only year-round one, I should say. JD at Wild Trout Outfitters did some tours in the summer, but not the winter. And Lone Mountain Ranch did some tours, but it was only for their guests only. So we were pretty much the only ones. And, now there's like 6 or 7 companies in Big Sky. And so when they opened up the permits, we decided to diversify and do what the guides want to do. We added backpacking, which is something I've always done in the park, and photography for our guide, Dave Reeves, who's a professional photographer for last 20 years in the Big Sky area.
Hey, tell me about that. So you're taking other people who are photographers out on guide trips?
Yeah, and he's doing photo workshops and whatnot.
That's awesome.
And Scott liked to do a lot of the day hiking and still do a lot of the traditional sightseeing trips.
Okay. And how would I recognize your vehicle in the park? Are you guys driving big
No, we're
giant vans?
small SUVs, Suburbans, Expeditions. We like the small groups. It's more personalized, and you can pull off the road for wildlife sightings. We can make a U-turn if we need to, if we saw something, and go back, which you can't necessarily do with the bigger vans and
That's
buses.
smart. You don't want to take the whole cruise ship with you.
Yeah, we decided we just kind of want to keep it small. We've got really experienced guides. Dave's been doing it 17 years. Scott, 28 years, 29 now.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm at 33. And Kaylee is kind of our new one. She's one of our backpacking guides. She's at 3 years, but she's got a ton of experience. She also guides climbs on Mount Rainier part time between backpacking in Yellowstone, and
that's hardcore,
right?
That's interesting. So you guys are sort of old hands,
right?
At all this. That's who I would want to go on a guide trip with.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of experience, and we've tried to keep it small.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest reason is employee housing is a huge issue.
Oh, right.
We want to make sure the guides are paid enough to where they'll come back and can make a living. And
okay. Tell me, I have people who come out to visit and they want to go see Yellowstone. How do you maximize your clients' opportunities to see wildlife and sort of experience everything that Yellowstone has to offer?
We talk to them ahead of time, see what they want to do, see where they want to focus.
Yeah.
A lot of now things with all these new companies in Big Sky. One of the big things we've been doing is multi-day trips and kind of helping people plan out their whole trip. And we're working our way around the whole ecosystem. So we're hitting the Beartooth, hitting the Tetons, a few days in Yellowstone, and kind of making a big loop out of the area instead of backtracking, a couple 300 miles to the same location every night.
And so we're talking about multi-day, basically an entire week?
Yeah. As long as they want. Sometimes 2 days, sometimes 7, 10.
You just got to make them happy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Do you have a personal favorite part of the park or feature?
The backcountry.
Okay.
But yeah, it's the backcountry I'd say is probably my favorite.
Yeah. When you're guiding or when you're by yourself?
Either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you go a lot when you're not on the job at this point? I
do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've tried to get 100 miles backpacking in every year, 100 days skiing.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. I'm sure you have seen some things. Can you give me like a great story that stands out from the park?
The people watching is probably the best. And
at this point,
right?
You've seen all the elk.
Right. Seen the elk, yeah.
And now it's just the new people every time.
Right. Well, some of the things people do are kind of silly. I think my favorite was watching this lady pick a flower and try to feed it to a bull elk. And she ended up with a face full of snot when he snorted at her. But,
do you intervene when you see people acting like they shouldn't?
I used to, but now people are so belligerent and flippant that, it starts a big scene.
Right.
So now my motto is, we'd rather be a witness than a victim.
Okay.
And it's just better to videotape and hope you get some money off it.
I hear that. Any close encounters you've had with wildlife yourself?
I'm pretty in tune to them and kind of keep aware of my surroundings. I mean, I've had grizzly bears on my front porch at home, and so it's always good to kind of peek out and look. Moose walking out there a couple feet away, and
always assume something's
assume something's out there. Pretty much. Dave, our guide Dave, made national news last summer when a trucker on 191 hit a grizzly bear cub, and the trucker didn't realize what he hit, but walked to our place. He was getting a tour vehicle at the time and was trying to call for help. There's no cell phone signal there, and Dave was able to help him call for help and whatnot. And Dave's like, "You want to ride back to the vehicle? It's only 100 yards away." And the guy's like, "Nah, I'll walk. It'll be plenty of time before a tow truck gets here and whatnot." Dave drives back, and there's an angler sow grizzly there because he hit the cub. He didn't realize he hit a cub, and she was charging the tour vehicle and whatnot. So he whipped around and it's like, I can't let him walk into that.
No way.
So he went and gave him a ride and, turned the tour vehicle around so he could hop into the truck without, touching the ground. So told him to stay there.
Very well. Great instincts that Dave has there.
Right.
That's amazing.
Well, that's because we've all been out there and,
Yeah.
been in it. So,
And it sounds like you have a tremendous respect for the ecosystem and the wildlife.
yeah.
Tell me about the time during the floods, when everything kind of washed away.
Yeah, that was kind of fun. Yeah, we expect something to happen every year, pretty much.
Right.
Fire, flood, government shutdown, losing a permit because of presidential executive order or whatever. The park wants to throw us our way. The floods didn't affect us as much on our side because it was the north and northeast entrance roads that washed out. But we have a lot of friends at both of those sides of the park. So the first thing we did was put together a flood recovery package, which we ended up selling 7 or 8 of. And we literally picked people up in Bozeman, took them to Gardner. They spent a full day in Gardner, rafting, horseback riding, or whatever they wanted to do. Gardner was down 95%
Wow.
at the time.
Yeah.
They were letting tourists go through the north entrance, not the public. So we could get up into the park, and then we'd go tour the north side of the park. We'd go up as far as we could up Slough Creek, where the park made us turn around. They're doing guided only between Tower and Slough. Then we go back and stay in West Yellowstone a couple of days. West was down to 40% with the floods as well. And we stayed there a couple of days, toured the geyser basins and whatnot. Then we literally went from West one day over, hit the canyon, Hayden Valley, over to Cody, did the museum a couple hours, then went over the Chief Joseph Highway to Cook City, who was really cut off.
Okay.
They for through the end of July, the only way in and out was through Cody. They couldn't get to Red Lodge or to the park, so they had 2 out of 3 roads washed out on them. Montana got the road to Red Lodge open pretty quick, so we'd usually go horseback riding or something there and cook, and then do the Beartooth Highway once that opened. Stay in Red Lodge, and then work our way back to Bozeman. And kind of gave all these towns a chance to get a little business.
Yeah, you did. It sounds like you made the absolute most out of a really bad situation.
Right. It was a fun trip too. So there's no traffic over there, everything cut off and no people. So it's
Well,
kind of getting those towns to ourselves. And
absolutely. And now I hope the business is coming back in a big way.
oh yeah, it's a pretty busy summer this summer. So
Okay. And how about the winter? Are you going to continue doing tours over the winter?
in the winter we kind of kick it back a gear, kind of downshift a little bit. We used to do snow coaches in the park. That's a lot of work. It's really expensive. It's a 3-month season.
Yeah.
A lot of things break down because you're using a lot of vehicles that are doing things they're not meant to do.
Yeah.
And so we found if we just kick back, do a few, 3 day wildlife trips in the north side, and some bigger packages with some big groups that do the 7-day, 8-day trip, and have our partners in West Yellowstone help take them in on the snow coach for those days. We found, just doing that, we're not busy like we are in the summer, but it's just enough to get by. We've also put together some big Sky Jackson hole packages for some families where they'll ski Big Sky, and then we'll get them snow coached across the park, and then pick them up on the other side in Jackson, and they'll ski Jackson a couple of days. So.
Oh, that's pretty good. I like that package.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
That's a good one for the wintertime. Are you looking forward to hopping on the new tram in Big Sky?
Yeah. It's kind of partial to the old one, Smaller's better. It's always been in my mind, but
yeah, I mean, I'm sure you remember when the old one was going in.
I do, yeah, absolutely.
How'd you feel about it then?
I was great. It was something John Kircher had been talking about for years.
Yeah.
And was glad to see it go in. It definitely changed the entire mountain.
Yeah.
From what it was. I mean, even Challenger, when it first went in, changed the entire mountain. Finally gave us some advanced terrain, which we didn't really have at all before. Challenger, I'm still a little bitter about it. Ruined the biggest powder stash on the mountain.
Oh no!
Once the bowl tracked out a couple days, and people would migrate up the Burt Traverse and do all that terrain on Challenger,
hike up and over.
Yeah, well, this is a pretty easy traverse. Yeah. Actually, it's going backwards what it did back then.
Okay,
you'd head over toward Challenger instead of toward the triple or toward the bowl.
Yeah,
back then triple's gone too, isn't it? But you'd have all that midnight moonlight, Burt. All that would be untracked, and not many people go over there because you had to do that god awful Bozeman Trail to get out. So
Uh-huh. But these days it's super
yeah,
easy to
yeah. Now it tracks up pretty quick.
ski it.
So
Well, I'm sorry
yeah, well, that
for your
happens.
loss,
Yeah,
but
right,
also
right. That's all right.
I'm excited every time a new lift or a
Yeah,
new
yeah, absolutely.
tram goes
New
in.
area or
So
something. So
yeah, we'll
yeah,
see how
no
it changes the
complaints.
mountain more.
Right?
How can our listeners book a tour guide? Should they go ahead and do it if they're thinking about doing it in the summertime now, or is it only
For
looking for
backpacking,
winter?
I'd recommend doing it now,
Okay.
before the mid-February. The commercial outfitters, we get a month head start on the campsites before the public,
Okay.
so we can get the best campsites that way.
That's nice.
And yeah, same with the summer, the multi-days, booking those earlier. The hotel rates go up as the hotels fill.
Gotcha.
So the closer you get to summer, they're literally, a couple $100 right now. Next summer they'll probably be 600 a night. So it makes a big difference.
So get on it.
Yeah, that's right.
Folks. Don't sit around and wait. I would recommend maybe hitting one in the wintertime and going ahead and getting in line for a summer tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jim, thank you so much for being here and
Yeah,
and
you're
letting
welcome.
me ask you so many inane questions.
Right.
But it's really nice getting to know you, and
Yeah,
and
you
I
too.
hope you enjoy your ski season
Oh,
and
absolutely.
you keep the park full of people.
Yeah, little road trip to Idaho coming up. We should have that
All right.
under the belt. So.
Enjoy it. Thank you so
You
much.
bet. Thank
All
you.
right. We'll sign
Mhm.
off there.
All right. Sounds good.